This episode of Reasonably Spontaneous Conversation is brought to you in part by Clay Boykin Life and Business Coaching, because we all get stuck at times. For more information, visit clayboykin.com. By Janelli Bean, for fun and engaging children's books with cute and colorful characters. For more information, visit janellibean.com. And by Wise Owl Organizing, simply set up for you. Organizing consulting and clarity coaching, virtual or in person. For more information, visit wiseowlorganizing.com.
Hello world, it's me, Dennis, and I get to talk with Annetta Marion. Hello, Annetta.
Hello, Dennis. Thank you so much for having me.
It is just my pleasure. I have congratulations on this Sundance entry and this premiere still. I've been studying your career, and the breadth of it. I mean, you have truly done so much in your career that you've done on television, and you've done so many high quality projects. How did Still come onto your radar, and at what point? So take us that those of us who love film like to know all the nitty gritty and how you got there. So tell us about that and how it even came onto your radar from the first.
Excellent. Yes, those of us who like to make things like to know how other things are made. So I'm happy to tell you everything. At the beginning of the pandemic, I was reacquainted with a friend and colleague of mine, Jonathan Silverberg, and he was at Concordia Studio. He's also an EP on Still, the Michael J. Fox movie, which is premiering at the best place in the world, Sundance.
Of course. Yes.
I know, it's my favorite place. So we got reacquainted at the beginning of the pandemic, and then he introduced me to his colleague, Nicole Stott, and who, she and I just clicked immediately. She also is an EP on the movie. She pitched me a couple of projects, and one of them was the Michael J. Fox movie, which was not called Still at that point. And I was so intrigued for so many reasons. I mean, we grew up with Michael J. Fox. I mean, those of us who grew up with Michael J. Fox, I mean, such an incredible movie star, TV star. He's basically narrated my youth. And, and also the chance to work with Concordia Studio and Davis Guggenheim. And I was also really, really drawn to the fact that the movie was conceptualized as not just a documentary, but also a hybrid model, really utilizing scripted elements. And because scripted is my thing, really, anyway, it was just a sort of a win-win-win. And then Davis and I had a number of Zooms just to talk about process and how we like to work, et cetera, and how we didn't like to work, really dug into things. And then we decided we wanted to work together. So I started end of April 2021.
All right. Now, at that point, had you storyboarded it out? Now, Davis Guggenheim is your director and your co-producer, right?
Correct.
So how did you two sit down and begin to break this story?
Well, it's it's a documentary, so it's not really so much I think the documentary came first, and then the scripted elements came where they should come. Once we kind of got an idea of the story narrative. Mm-hmm. But Davis had a great idea to do what we called summits, creative summits, where he and I and the editor and the other producers, and we would be in a room and go over what content we knew we had, what content we wanted. And we had, boards with color-coded sticky notes and all those different things, and really kind of tested a lot of things out, there on the board before we, would try to implement it in the edit or in the shoots. But it was really such a fun process. And I mean, and as you know, making any movie is a journey, and it starts one place and ends up another.
What did you learn about that? How did it evolve? What were the places for those of us in film who love this Can you talk about the evolution and how you got to a place where, oh, well, now this is what the story is telling us where it needs to go, what it needs to do. So can you talk about that process from an inside the film perspective?
Absolutely. So, Michael J. Fox, of course, everyone knows a lot about him. He's written a lot of books. He's been a public figure for a long time. And so we all know all those things already about Michael J. Fox.
And his journey from into Parkinson's, which getting Parkinson's, and then his advocacy and his unrelenting optimism. Because that to be able to take what has happened to him, and to be able to continue to overcome and to continue to work is astonishing. So this is what you have to work with as you're going in.
Absolutely. And then because, Michael was, definitely a part of, it was a collaboration with him too. So the more we got to know him and interview him, the more, that's when you learn the things that aren't public, that aren't in his books, that aren't in his movies, aren't in the TV shows, aren't in the articles. And that helps you find the story, because really it's Michael's story told by Michael. So it was really important for all of us to do it together. So that's really how, because you can know what you know with research, and we researched diligently and watched everything diligently, but that's just, a little piece of someone's life and career and aspirations and fears and all of that. So we were really guided by our collaboration with Michael.
What a lovely experience. So tell me about him. Tell me about him as a human being and as a professional, because he continues to do media. I mean, you're dealing with someone who is an extraordinarily gifted actor and writer and a producer. So you're getting to work with him in a different way than you would like when you were doing James Taylor, or you're doing any of the people for the Oprah Network. There were more performers. This is someone who is actually inside the piece.
Yeah, it was really fun because Michael is as nice and honest and authentic of a human being that we all want him to be, just being fans. I mean, there isn't a wrong note in the man. He really is nice and personable and funny and jovial and inclusive as you would want him to be, and that's not always the case, as we know. So that was such a pleasure. I mean, he's a man, he's a real person, and he's not perfect, but he really has, everything, you would want in a friend and a colleague and a collaborator.
Oh.
And he brought it all. There was no, he really, I felt like he really trusted us and we really trusted him. And really it's that trust that's imperative to making anything of the best it can be. And that was our whole point, to make the best it could very be.
So now that you get, all right, so here you go, you're getting all this documentary footage. Now you got a chance to do the scripted footage too, that you were working on. Now you've got all of this material. It's got to be edited. What was that like?
Well, it's so Michael Hart was our editor, and just a really super talented guy. And he actually started editing because we had all of Michael's movies. We had out of the gate, there's just a lot of content because just who Michael is and what he's done.
And were you able to get clearance on it all so that you were able to use it within?
Yeah, I mean, the way that it usually works is that you use things and use content and movies and TV shows and whatever, trying to find the story. And then only when you find it in your picture lock do you go out for, permissions and that sort of thing. But we made sure that we weren't using anything in the edit that we wouldn't be able to get permission for. So, but, so we started editorial kind of at the beginning, which is an incredible experience. And I think I want to do that forever moving forward. but yeah, Michael. So it's funny. So there's Michael J. Fox and there's Michael Hart. So just to be clear, which Michael we're
Michael's,
talking
no
about.
waiting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Michael Hart was able to start, editorial very, very early because we had all of, Michael J. Fox's materials to like just start. We wanted to learn everything and know everything. And so that started first. And then as we would shoot our nonfiction pieces, which were, archive, verite footage of Michael J. Fox in his element and interviews with Michael J. Fox. I mean, that would just sort of inform what Michael Hart, the editor, was doing. And we would just kind of slowly, weave that in. And then when that cut got to be more mature, we were a little bit further down the line, then what needed to be scripted speaks to you. It tells you. And then Davis has an incredible graphic artist that he's worked with before, who also would take some of these scripted ideas and put them into storyboards, and we would test things out to see if it worked or not, because we had to be really, every film has a budget and all the things that come with that. So we had to be very careful on where we spent the scripted money. And so we, really kind of try to test out as much as possible to make sure we were being as efficient, effective, and judicious and spot on all at the same time with the scripted elements. And the scripted elements, I think, are gorgeous. They're beautiful. I love them so much. And I really think that, there's so much about the film that I love. I love everything about it, but the scripted elements really speak to my heart.
Yes. And so, all right, so now you're getting this film. When do you start thinking about the distribution process? How does that work, and where you want to send this out? So you want to get as many eyes on the screen as you possibly can over the part of it. So how do you think about that as a producer?
Well, Apple Plus was our likely partner on that end when I came on board. Things had to be worked out, and there was effort there, but Apple Plus was really the home that we wanted, and they wanted us as well. So it just was a matter of figuring it out. But yeah, Apple Plus has been amazing. This is my first time working with that buyer, and they're so supportive, so collaborative, also so respectful of the creative process and what people want to do with all of this. And that's a gorgeous thing to have in your life.
That is huge. That kind
of things.
And so now, all right, so you have that, so it will be going out on now once it goes to Sundance. Now, so you submitted to Sundance and it got in, right? So it's going to be shown, it's showing here at Sundance. Now, then it will go to Apple Plus for streaming.
Yeah. So what exactly is going to happen this year with Still, the Michael J. Fox movie is it's coming into focus now. So I don't have any dates or anything to share with you, but I expect we'll finish a festival. Sundance is launching our festival run, and then we'll have a festival run, and then perhaps sometime this year the movie will end up being on Apple Plus, and maybe even a theatrical release. So yeah, so I imagine it will be out to the public sometime this year, 2023.
And I'm so fascinated with the world today of production, because we've never had more opportunities to have a wider audience, yet we don't have those very clear pipelines that we used to have. Now it's like it's the Wild West. And so as you're looking at a producer, all right, let's go back for a second. Were you there? Has Michael seen the entire finished film?
Yes.
What was his feedback? What did he give you on from his sense?
So, well, just to be clear,
Michael J. Fox, not the
of course. So Michael J. Fox, he saw our picture locked movie and approved it, and was I feel very touched and very moved and very appreciative of all the effort that we all put into making it as good as it was, and as good as possible, and being respectful of him and his life and his family and everything, all the things that he holds dear. So I feel like he's pretty freaking happy with the movie.
Nice. That must be awful. That must give you a great deal of satisfaction.
I was in tears. I was in tears of joy. Yes.
Yeah.
It was very, and Michael J. Fox had seen, cuts of the movie throughout, because this was a collaboration, so I don't think there was any, maybe great surprise at the end, but there's always, it's, sometimes can be hard to put pencils down, right? Pencils down. This is it. Now we're going to go into color and mix and all that kind of stuff. So there's always some, moment of, okay, this is it. And I think everyone was pretty pleased.
For you, Annetta, when you think about your gifts that you bring to a project, because different producers will bring different skills, and part of that, when you think of you as a storyteller and you as what do you look at as, okay, well, this is something I want, this is something that I like about, and what I bring to a project?
Well, my wheelhouse is inspiring and aspiring content. I mean, that's just like where my heart is. That's just kind of where I live. And I also think as artists, it's really important that we take responsibility for what we put out there in the world. And so those two things go hand in hand for me. And I have to fall in love with something to do it. I just, then it's not a job, and it's just a joy, and it's just a life, and you wake up and you can't wait to wake up, and you can't wait to go on to the next thing. And that's the space that I need to live in, or I just don't, it's just not for me if it's not like that. And I think just sort of like what I can bring to projects, because I mostly work as a director, I've done every job all the way up. I've started off as a PA, and I've done everything all the way up. So, and I worked as a line producer for a long time, and AD. So, it's I think one of my superpowers is I can make decisions quickly and pivot and be 3 steps ahead, because I already know what we can't do budget wise, what we can't do schedule wise, and I can skip over that to like what is possible. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a really great thing.
I think it's a wonderful thing. What a lovely aspect to be able to bring to the project.
Yeah, I mean, it's because otherwise you waste time, and time is the one thing we can't replace, right? You could always have more, get more. Yeah, exactly. So, and also I just have an open heart about like what the universe provides. And sometimes you can think what you want and know what's right, but then the universe has a different idea about the whole thing. And I have an open heart about that. Like I never want to be. I'm very planned. I'm a nerd. I'm very, I do my homework and all that kind of stuff. But I also am an improv performer, so I'm able to throw things away in the moment and like start over. So that ability to pivot, I think, is just I think it's just a life skill. Yeah. Because what's that phrase? We plan and God laughs.
Exactly. Exactly. And she does. And she, that's what I love about the universe is that for me, it's very user friendly. It will give back to me whatever I experience. Oh, life is hard and everybody is just out to get you in this. And the universe says, yes. Mm-hmm. Life is wonderful, and I love collaborating with people, and I really want to get in there and work together. Yes. Mm-hmm. It really has an element to it, a wonderful element to it that we can, and I can see by your attitude and by what you bring what you bring, those are the kinds of things that you come back. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so happy that there are more women getting into the decision making part, because I feel that men, as long as we were up to that zero-sum game, that we are only part of the pie, that we men, we were doing well. But the minute we get past that, when we now have to get into the synergy and synchronicity, where 1 + 1 is greater than 2, where collaboration and communication are so vital part of the creative process, this is where women can step up, lead, and teach us. And I love being able to be led by women, and to see women coming into this process. It's very inspiring. I'm so glad that you're doing it.
Oh, this is why I'm here on Earth. Seriously. So I'm very happy about that. And I love what you said about it's energy attracts like energy. So if your energy is a low frequency, poor me, that's what you're going to get. There's no way around it.
It has to, according to law. There's nothing mystical about it.
Physics.
It's physics. It's just the quantum principles of what we put out there and how it comes in, and is exactly how it works.
But if you're loving life every single second, and that doesn't mean life is easy every single second. It just means
no.
Yeah, it just means that when there is a challenge, or there is a stumble, or there is something that you didn't think was, that's an opportunity. If you can just think of it as an opportunity and not a problem, things work so much better, because you're vibrating on a higher energy level. And then you get higher energy solutions that maybe come your way, because they like what you're made of. They're like, okay,
exactly. And that's which is why I got you. Which is why I got a chance to do this with you today. Now, those and we know in production that that things have to overlap. So how quickly, as you're going into this, you're beginning to be pitched new projects, you're beginning to bring this up. What inklings are on that you can share with us, or are coming to entice you now?
That's a great question. I mean, this was, like I said, I started the project in 2021, and this was really intense. We were in development, production, post-production, all simultaneously. And I'm used to being in post and production at the same time, but all three at the same time was really tough. So I just really had to focus, and really have only been able to, since this past fall, to sort of, okay, what's next for me? And to that end, I'm so happy to say that I'm a part of the DGA's. The DGA has this prestigious episodic television director program, mentorship program. So I'm a part of that, and I'm, charging down that road 100% with everything I have, which has been amazing. And I also directed my 14th, I think it's my 14th short film just a few weeks ago, and I'm in post on that. So so for me, it's all about just just opening the next door and doors.
Yeah. And I think when you're talking about the improv process, both for life and what we're doing in what the way you're doing it, is that the basic principle of yes and.
Absolutely.
Because that's what happens. Okay, this is a crap storm. Okay, now what are we going to do, and how are we going to make fertilizer, and what are we going to do, and go to the next thing on seeing how we can develop it, and because we use all parts of the buffalo. There's nothing that limits. So what kinds of stories are you interested in telling? Where are the things that are on your heart, Annetta?
The film that I'm in editorial on is a horror film, my second one. And I find that horror really kind of can open us up into like the subconscious part of things, which fascinates me. I was the black sheep of my family, so I am always so interested in why people do what they do.
Yes.
And why good people do bad things, and why bad people can do good things. Like the human psychology part of of life, I mean, will take me to my at the end of my days, because I'm endlessly fascinated with it, and it's endlessly, you know, giving new examples and new things to dig into. So I'm a big fan of it's funny, the film that I just directed had one actor, which was a first for me. I'm used to, I prefer ensemble. I've done more like ensemble cast sorts of work, which I really like, because again, comes back to the human dynamic and how, not only, why people do what they do, why we're different day to day. Like the person who shows up yesterday might not be the person who shows up today, and how that's okay, and that's human, and that's normal, but why, and then how to deal with it. I mean, that endlessly fascinates me.
Wonderful. And so, all right, well, what's on your bed table? What do you read at night? What kinds of stuff how do you unwind at the end of the day? Because that's one of the things that I find is that I'm going go, and I'm so stimulated that in order to be able to turn it off, I have to be able to try and get something that is engaging and involving in a way that it's different from just, oh, let me pick up that next script, or let me pick up that next idea. So what do you do?
I have a decently healthy meditation practice, whether that's in the morning or night, which just has saved me so many times. And I also have a decent gratitude practice, which I think is important, and I love it.
Vital. I'm so glad you're bringing that in, because without gratitude, I'm finding that without that gratitude, I tend to overlook and completely, and then I find myself overemphasizing the negative, what is not there, the negative space, instead of really appreciating what is there, and then the ideas will burble forth if I'm able to do that. Anyway, you so excited me with that, I jumped in, but you talk.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think because there's so much we all have, we should feel gratitude about, and it's so easy to go from one appointment to the other, and one job to another, and a phone call and a Zoom and all of that, and not slow down for a minute and be thankful for every single person who helped you that day. Thankful for your health. Thank you for your feet who got you up that 4-flight walk up, which I live in, and I just think it's important to, and it takes time and effort, in my experience anyway, to give that its due, because we're all so busy, so I think gratitude is super important. And then I also, I try and before I go to sleep, I try and ask a question. Like I'm asking a question to like my subconscious and the universe, and then see because like your brain continues to work while you're asleep, and it's really accessing things that you don't have access to as a conscious person. So I try and harness that as I sleep, because I find that it really gives me gifts, but it has to be very specific. It can't be like, oh, I want to have more money. It's got to be like, okay, no, I have this one problem, and the specificity is very important.
Wow. Thank you for both answering. It was so neat, because what I find, Annetta, when I am in a zone of presence, when I'm present and I'm allowing this work, as I'm getting into both my intuition, which is a muscle, I feel like it's something that I have to go to the gym and work on, train. I mean, the Las Vegas makes billions by just going 5149. So by practicing the intuition, and sometimes going down that alley and then turning around and say, no, but working on that, it has opened up an entirely new place for me. I mean, it's really helped me a lot. And
like listening to your body.
Yes.
Your body knows things. It might not, might not know why you shouldn't do that. But if your body's like, red flag, danger, danger, you just listen.
Yes.
Or the opposite way, yeah, I think all that stuff is so important. And the more you consciously work on it, the better you get at it, which then makes it bring things to you that you want and stay away from things that you want to stay away from. And it's a spiral, it's an upward spiral that's, you know, I think I got muted there for a second.
I did that. I did that. Well,
Thanks,
that little mute. We'll just have all, everyone will just have a closed caption right on that part. But anyway, that was me. Thank you, Annetta. Thank you so much for this first opportunity. I'm certainly, thank you, Nadine Jolson, for connecting us and the opportunity to be able to know you and know where you're going and get it and along the road to be able to have another one of these reasonably spontaneous conversations, to be able to know this is what Annetta Marion is up to today. And thank you for being out there, and thank you for bringing the light that you bring and your attitude, because it comes through every one of your pieces. And it is
thank you so much, Dennis.
It's a delight.
For your time. It's so great to get to know you. And yeah, I just love every second of this. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you, Annetta Marion. Thank you, everybody, for watching Reasonably Spontaneous Conversation. We'll see everyone next time.
This episode of Reasonably Spontaneous Conversations has been brought to you in part by In Search of the New Compassionate Male. For more information, go to newcompassionatemale.com.